Jon Reynolds. I'm from Augusta, Maine.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Recover Loud. I'm your host, Mike Paddleford, and I recover loud. This show first started with the hopes that we could help end the stigma of substance use disorder and try to help to save some lives.
Let's go. I'm on a journey to discover the truth. Living life in recovery is lovely. You got the power in you. Surround yourself with positive energy. Judges hitting people with provocative penalties. Need to make a change. Advocate to change the laws. Prove to people that it's not insane. When you stand behind a cause, I'm here to speak about the pain. Recover loud to normalize the disease that's been killing all my friends and my family. The time is now to let it all go and recover loud. The benefit is healthy people, family and friends that never have to overdose ever again, never have to plead out to a lesser offense. I'm proud to say that I recover loud. I never thought I could, but I'm so proud that I discovered how to live my life again, controlling my own destiny. I needed recovery, I still need it desperately. Addiction never defined my identity. I recover loud, here to tell my own story. I recover proud, save a life of like 40. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, here to tell my own story. I recover proud, save a life of like 40. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud, yeah, I recover loud. I recover loud. I recover loud. I recover loud. I recover loud.
My recovery started in 2018. I was living in Waterville, and I was on probation. And my PO, sick of me failing urine tests and catching new charges and stuff, so she's like, you need to go to the sober house. I never knew what a sober house was, no idea like anything about really even recovery at that point. I just had heard of AA meetings that I had been to in the past. And so she told me about a sober house here in Augusta called James Place. And I came out here to James Place, and that's where it all started. Coming to James Place was my first experience, like, finding real recovery. So for me, my recovery, there's two parts, and both parts are as equally important as the other, and I need both parts for either one of them to work. For me, it's Jesus and community. I didn't know that that's what I needed until I got here. I first needed the community, which is getting me here. In the community, I met people in the sober house that talked about this church that they went to. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like a Christian, you know, I wasn't religious growing up or anything, or really had any kind of relationship with a higher power. And these people told me about this church, and they were like, you know, you'll love it. It's really like, people there just love you no matter what. Like, I'm used to being like, you know, stigmatized and like criticized because of the way I look and like the lifestyle I used to live, so I was like really apprehensive about going. And but everybody in the sober house, you know, these people are all like, you know, my people, and they're going to this church and they're really like feeling it. So I was like, I'll try it. And I did, and it was like the first time I had ever really like listened to somebody when they talked about God, because my idea of God was way different. I grew up like, my dad was Roman Catholic, and it was like fire and brimstone. Like, you know, if you do bad, you're going to go to hell. Like,
So you did grow up with religion?
Yeah, but not, they didn't go to church. They were just like, you know, like just tough, you know. So getting into a church where I actually felt like loved for who I was like, it was an extremely new feeling. I'd never even felt it from a human. So for me to understand the concept that something could love me no matter what I'd done, no matter where I'd been, and like genuinely love me like no matter what, it was truly life-changing. So I got that from church, and then coming into the recovery community by living in the sober house, I'd felt that from the people in the recovery community. Like, I came here like with like a dog with my tail between my legs. Like, I didn't know anybody. I was like, oh, it's gonna be, you know, just like come from Waterville. Like, it's gonna be just like Waterville. I'm gonna end up getting in trouble and doing all this. You know, nobody actually really cares about you. And then coming into the recovery community here in Augusta, feeling like these people actually love me. I came with nothing in my pocket. I remember going to AA meetings and meeting people at the meetings, and they'd like take my phone number down. And they're like calling me a couple days later. You want to go get some coffee? They pick me up, buy me a coffee, pack of cigarettes, and then just drop me off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so weird. I'd never had people just be good to me for nothing.
Right.
It was always because somebody wanted something in return.
Mm.
So that's the first time I'd like ever felt it, felt like what it felt like to be loved and feel like a recovery community.
What actually led you to using it?
My dad, I mean, now in hindsight, now that I actually have a couple 24 hours together, I think I was like always an alcoholic and an addict, whether I used the substance or not. Just the way that, like, you know, our mentalities are. I was very selfish, self-centered, thought the world revolved around me. And that's not like an egotistical way, like I thought good of me.
Right.
I just, it's always me, like, you know,
Right.
poor me, pity me. Just always nervous and fearful of the whole world. Growing up, my mom was a really terrible, she still is. I don't have any contact with her. She's a really bad alcoholic, and I guess it was just bound to happen. But my dad, the catalyst really was my dad died when I was 12, and he was the only type of stability I'd ever had in my life. My mom just was like a complete mess, like was passed out on the kitchen floor for days at a time. And my dad was a workaholic, so we'd get home from real late at work, put us kids to bed, pick my mom up, clean her up, put her to bed.
And how old were you when all that was going
Oh,
on?
my whole life growing up, like, it's my earliest childhood memories, like 4 and up. That was like the full childhood. My grandmother's got like these insane photos of like coming home to like my mom passed out on the floor, milk spilled all over the kitchen floor because I'm trying to pour a bowl of cereal at 3. My sister's a year younger than me. I'm trying to make her cereal, and I'm like trying to make mac and cheese on the kitchen floor. I get like the noodles all out.
Yeah.
So that was like a normal for me in my childhood. That's like, so I was used to that. And then when my dad died, I had no stability, and I just like, I was 12, about to be 13, and I was really depressed. My dad had just died, and we were getting ready for school one day, and I remember my mom just like came in my room, and I was like putting my shoes on, all like sad, and she's like, you know, you don't have to go to school, you can just stay home and drink with me. And I'm like, you know, what 12, 13-year-old kid's gonna say no to that? And I was a skateboard punk rock kid, so I was like, hell yeah. So I stayed home, crushed a 30 rack with her, and I mean, I guess that was like the first like experience, like being like, all right, this is what life's supposed to be like. And
Did you go through your whole teenage years kind of that way?
yeah, I mean, it started pretty quick, and I mean, almost immediately I was a full-blown alcoholic. That's not to say that I was dependent on it, but I drank alcoholically immediately. I didn't ever drink like a normal teenager, what normal teenager drinks
Right.
that. But I remember just like being, you know, I would say like the first time I actually got drunk and I knew that there was something different about me. I was with my friends, and because I drank beer with my mom and stuff like that, took a couple sips, but me and my friends stole a bottle from Hannaford. And it was some type of Bacardi, like a watermelon Bacardi, and we were in my room, and we had like grown up watching adults chug, so they were chugging it.
Right.
So we did that. We just like swig, handed it off. There's 4 of us in the circle, and we just kept going and going.
Yeah.
And then the bottle was gone. It was like 10 minutes, and the whole thing was gone. So like, we hadn't kicked in yet. I went downstairs to make some ramen, and I'm like, it's such a vivid memory. When I got downstairs to open the cupboard hit me in the head, and my depth perception was off.
Yeah.
And I knew I was drunk at that moment. My whole body
Right.
got warm, and immediately I felt like just so good. There was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
My whole life was okay. And I remember like screaming up to the guys upstairs, "Guys, I'm drunk!" And they're like, "Yeah, so are we, idiot." But it's because I'm an alcoholic, and I was destined to be an alcoholic that it meant so. It was so different to me. They're like, "Yeah, it's fine. We're drunk." But to me, it was like I finally felt like a normal person.
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was 11. Was the first time I had a drink, and it was family gathering. You know, my aunts and uncles. You know, they lived at the lake. We lived in an apartment complex. I looked up to that. You know, and on the weekends they would have, you know, their friends over in these big parties, and you know, I always wanted to be there. And while I was there, I was allowed to drink. And to me, it was taught to me that drinking was taking in as much alcohol as you can till you're throwing up or passing out. You know, and that was what I thought drinking was. So as I got older, that's what drinking was. You know, and I was going to the bars in Canada, living in Augusta County, the border's right there, and the drinking age is 19. Well, a lot of 17-year-olds look 19. So
I was going to the bar 6 nights a week. And it was from the time I got there till the time they told me that they weren't serving me any more beer. You know, and I'd be woken up off the bar, given the keys, and I was the driver, you know. So, I mean, you know, that modeling that we received, you know, we didn't know any better, you know. And then in many cases, it's too late, you know, to do something about it. You know, and later on in life, I never had a problem with alcohol unless I had a drink. You know what I mean? As long as I don't have that one, I can get through. So you mentioned coming into the sober house. What led you up to that point to have you going to the sober house?
Yeah, so like I said, that was like 15, 16 when I was doing that with my friends, and pretty much my life just revolved around abusing a substance. It started out as alcohol, just because it's so easily accessible, and then you know, moved on to pills. Benzos have a lot to do with my story too. After my dad had died, I was diagnosed with like severe PTSD and anxiety. Like my resting heart rate was like well over 100 beats just sitting there, and they put me on like copious amounts of benzos, and which is just a pill form of alcohol. And I was ingesting so many benzos that I'd black out for like months at a time. And it was just like, it was terrible. And my life just kind of lived like that. I was in between 15 to literally 20, so it's 27, 28. My life consisted of detoxes, rehabs, institutions, jails, most of the time jail. And it was just like pure insanity. It got so bad to the point where I pushed away entirely everybody that ever loved me. Anybody that ever cared about me just didn't have any more patience with me, because they were like, you know, you keep doing the same thing and you keep having these same effects. I mean, throughout all of this, I had a child that, you know, most people are like, oh, you think that would make you change? And nope, nothing changed at all. No. I mean, I wasn't even hardly there for the pregnancy. I was there for the birth, but I wasn't coherent.
And how old were you?
So she's 9 now. I was like 23.
Yeah.
Yep, I was 23 when we had her, and not long after that, I was...
Yeah, even at 23, you weren't ready to take that responsibility.
Oh, no, and I didn't even know what responsibility was. The type of childhood I grew up in, there was no responsibility. My mother had no responsibility, so she didn't teach me responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, my last grade completed in school was 7th grade, and I didn't even really complete it. It was the year that my dad died, so they felt bad, and they pushed me on the No Child Left Behind. Same thing in 8th grade. And then high school, I went for like 2 days and then just got expelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What caused you to be expelled?
Getting suspended so much times. I went longer than 2 days. I just got suspended so many times. Kept getting suspended. They're just like, we're done with you. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, good, I'm done with me too.
Yeah. So what did you do after you were expelled from school? Did you just give up on?
Yeah, I sold drugs, and then I drank alcohol, did drugs, smoked crack.
My son actually got expelled his freshman year.
That was mine too.
And as a parent of somebody that got expelled, you know, I was concerned where his life was going to go after that. You know, and you know, even though I was high all the time, I knew that I didn't want him to, you know, experience that you know, feeling of unworthiness. You know, not being able to accomplish a goal. So I ended up supporting and pushing him to continue school. He eventually got his GED.
I appreciate it.
You know, did you go on to get your GED yet?
Yeah, so not when I was younger. I had the exact opposite experience. When I got expelled, my mom was like almost like a proud badge of honor.
Right.
She allowed me to sell crack in the house. I'm not saying this to talk bad about my mother. I love my mother with my whole heart. This is just what really happened in my life, and this is how my life was. I could sell crack in the house as long as I gave her some.
Now, do you see your mom as being the sick individual that she is? Once you realize how sick you were.
Right, and you know, back then I just thought it was party time. Now I just feel so bad that she's, you know, she still is really sick.
Yeah.
I pray for her. We don't talk. We can't talk until she gets some help. But yeah, I feel so bad. She's had so much trauma. She didn't know any better. She only did to me because that's what her grandfather did to her. And
and you know, that's that generational cycle that we all run into. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you know, we just keep passing it on. until we can find recovery ourselves, find some way to treat our problems ourselves.
Yeah, right.
And then we can teach that to the next generation.
Sorry about the GED thing. So I ended up living my whole life without really even needing it. I just would work odds and end jobs, but I got arrested in 2017. This is before my recovery had really started. So I guess you could say that it kind of started here. I was arrested in Somerset County Jail, and I was just doing like 6 months or something, and one of the ladies from the adult ed over there, she just liked me. I'd go in the library, pick books, and we'd talk. She's like, do you want to get your GED? I'm like, sure. I don't even know what that would take. She's like, well, try these high-set tests. And I did so well on the high-set test. She's like, you could just take the GED test right now, and I bet you pass it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I did it, and I did really well at it. She's like, you ever thought of going to college? And I'm like, no. She's like, why don't you apply to college while you're here? So I applied for the welding program at KBCC, and I got accepted from Somerset County Jail. Wow. It was really cool. Yeah, it was one of the first times that somebody had actually applied and got still accepted while they were still in the county jail. But I ended up getting out, got the money, and I still wasn't ready for recovery yet. So I got the money, and then I did do some of the welding program, which was incredible. I do recommend that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I liked it, but I just wasn't ready to.
So what are you doing today?
So today I go to school. I'm not full-time right now. I only got 3 credits. I only have 3 classes left, so I'm taking all of those. 9 credits. I work full-time for the Maine Recovery Advocacy Project. I'm the Kennebec County Community Organizer. What's more important, though, is today I'm a friend. I'm available for people. I'm a follower of Christ. I try to devote most of my life to being a better person every day, because there was so much in my life where I wasn't a good person. I'm about to be a father, and I'm sober, and I'm so excited about that, because it's like something that I feel like I've always wanted, and I just never really had the opportunity to do it sober and like clear-minded. I'm a brother.
Yeah, in recovery we get to be all of these things.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't have to be just one.
Right.
Because, we can become all of these things as long as we keep working towards, the goal of making ourselves better.
Right.
And sometimes we don't even realize what we want to be.
Right.
I know when I went to rehab, I had no idea who I even was. I went to rehab at 42 years old. I started using, really when I was 16, I started drinking heavy, and then graduated to other substances later on. But just, that was my go-to, a substance. And, when I hurt my back in 2002, I started getting prescribed medications, and that allowed me to go that direction.
Yeah.
And at first, it wasn't even the addiction to the medication, but the money and the power from selling them all. And at the time, I justified it by saying I'm able to provide my kids the life that I didn't have, that I wanted as a kid. We were going on family vacations, doing all of this stuff. The kids could do whatever extracurricular activities they wanted. And I didn't have to tell them no. Me growing up, I didn't have that. My grandfather, I was in the band, but my grandfather had to buy my trumpet because my parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
I was on the wrestling team, but I had to get a scholarship, and the school provided me with wrestling shoes. My kids didn't need to do that. And so that was my justification. And, it obviously wasn't the best path to take. And today, when they look back at, their childhoods, they don't see the good that I tried to do. They see everything's tainted because it was drug money. or I was high when we did it, or there's times that they didn't get to do what they wanted because I couldn't get what I needed. I can't even tell you how many times we were late to things because I had to wait for my guy to show up before I would leave the house.
Oh yeah.
And if he didn't show up, sorry kids, we're not going. And today I don't have to do that.
Right.
I've been noticing. I've suddenly gotten onto TikTok. If you're interested, you could follow me on TikTok. But what I'm noticing is around the country, the laws out there that Maine has enacted, the ability to carry fentanyl test strips. Not every state has approved that. So those things are illegal in some places. So the work that we do here in Maine that has, progressed some of these laws is really important.
That's another thing too. That's like, it's been, not necessarily difficult, but it's living, because I am totally supportive of all pathways. And I'm not saying that God is for everybody, but for me, my whole life, I was trying to fill a God-sized hole in my heart and in my soul with substances, sex, food, anything that made me feel better. And that hole could never be filled until I made and found a higher power and made that relationship with them. And that's something I was always trying to consume, trying to fill it with something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And in recovery I'm doing the same thing still.
Right.
Work, advocacy, all of this stuff, helping people to find a better way.
Right.
That becomes an addiction in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
And it also becomes my program against addiction.
Exactly.
Staying connected to all these people, all these groups, all the, people doing the work as well as the people who need the help.
Yep.
And if we're not in contact or talking to people who need help, there's not going to be anybody for us to help.
Right.
When we Recover Loud, we put our names out there as somebody that they can come to. We don't always have to seek out somebody, but if we let them know that we're here doing this stuff, and they realize that they need that, they're gonna know where they can go.
Exactly.
When I was first, still using it in University County, there wasn't anybody talking recovery.
I know.
There was no recovery center at the time. There were no 12-step meetings that I knew of. It wasn't until after I went to rehab that I found out a guy that I spent almost every day with. He would put me to work, give me cash. He was in a 12-step program, but hadn't told me about it.
It's attraction rather than promotion.
Right. And that wasn't helpful to me.
No, I know.
So when it came time that I wanted help, I called my aunt, who's a nurse, and she did some research and said, call the hospital, or go to the hospital, tell them you want to detox. Well, that hospital isn't set up to detox.
No.
They put me in a room for 5 days and left me alone. But my meth dealer visits me every day.
Of course.
In the hospital while I'm in detox.
Yep.
Obviously, if I wanted to get high, I could have, but I also could have walked out the door.
Right.
So I chose, even in the face of that, to not, because I really wanted it. And as far as I knew, nobody else there had actually done it, because if I knew them, I was buying or using or selling them something. So to know people who were actually actively doing it, I just had no idea. So that's why I got out of rehab. I moved to Lewiston. I cared about my friends back home, and I decided if I recover loud enough, they'll hear me, and they'll know recovery is possible. So that's how this whole show came about. Because I didn't want to stay silent and keep my friends wondering. And I can't tell you the countless friends who are in recovery today. That I'm grateful that they found a path. They either seen me or someone else doing it, and they reached out and they got it done. But on the other hand, there's so many people that have lost. And that's going to continue to happen. We lost 717 last year to drug-related overdose. And one thing I have to remind myself is that it could be so much higher if we weren't out here doing the work.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Absolutely.
Last year, one of one of the bills that the Recovery Advocacy Project worked on, the expansion of the Good Samaritan bill. You know, the day that went into effect, it had the ability to save lives. You know. So what is it you're doing this year around the Good Sam bill?
So unfortunately, there was a bill put forth that was actually, it's kind of like trying to target Good Sam and trying to change that. They will try to, if it's not, I mean, I can't say it's not, but anyways, a bill that's been put out, and they're trying to change Good Sam so that people could still get prosecuted for trafficking, for furnishing, and arresting people with firearms by a prohibited person. And so we're going pretty hard at that right now.
Okay. Now, wouldn't that particular, firearms, part of it come under the violent crimes?
So, I mean, that part, sorry, 1 second. That part is like debatable, and also at the same time, is it violent if they're not hurting anybody with it? You know what I mean? Like, what if they use it for protection? You know what I mean? Like, who's to say that? All we know is that we created the Expand Good Sam so that people are covered for any reason. Like, you need to be able to call 911. We don't want people to hesitate. You know what I mean? We want to make sure people are calling, and so. Yeah,
I got behind that myself last year.
I remember I was with you.
Yeah,
at State House,
and it was just, it made so much sense to me. People are not dialing 911 out of fear.
Yep.
People are dying because of that. When having naloxone in a timely manner proves that an overdose is a preventable event. So it's just a shame that anybody would attack that particular bill when it's all about saving lives.
Right, and that's the reason why it was created, so that lives are saved, and people are trying to go and just like change it because obviously they're looking for prosecution over humanity and like people being alive. We're trying to eliminate any reason for somebody to not call. Do you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
exactly.
Like we want these people to make
sure
they call.
We know for a fact that's happened.
Right.
Even today, without the knowledge of the Good Samaritan bill, people are afraid to call.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that don't trust.
They don't even right, and that's the thing too that's difficult. And this summer, the Voices Project's gonna be really vamping up spreading the awareness and the knowledge about Good Sam and like what how to use it and how you're protected.
Yeah, John, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate the work you're doing with the Recovery Advocacy Project.
Thank you.
And I look forward to more collaboration.
Absolutely. Look forward to having you too. We love it when you come.
Hey, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Paddleford, and I recover loud. On August 8th, Maine's expanded version of the Good Samaritan law goes into effect. This law is intended to make it more likely for someone to dial 911 in the case of a drug-related overdose. This law removes the penalties and the threat of prosecution for all drug-related offenses and most non-violent crimes, as well as probation violation and parole revocation. It is now safe for us to dial 911 in the case of an overdose. We don't have to take care of our friends alone. Please help save a life by dialing 911. If you or someone you know would like to carry naloxone, you can reach out to me at recoveryotr18@gmail.com. Recover loud, everybody.
Let's go. I'm on a journey to discover the truth. Living life in recovery is lovely. You got the power in you. Surround yourself with positive energy. Judges hitting people with provocative penalties. Need to make a change. Advocate to change the laws. Prove to people that it's not insane. When you stand behind a cause, I'm here to speak about the pain. Recover loud to normalize the disease that's been killing all my friends and my family. The time is now to let it all go and recover loud. The benefit is healthy people people, family and friends that never have to overdose ever again, never have to plead out to a lesser offense. I'm proud to say that I recover loud. I never thought I could, but I'm so proud that I discovered how to live my life again, controlling my own destiny. I needed recovery, I still need it desperately. Addiction never defined my identity. I recovered loud, here to tell my own story.